Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Kyle crashes and burns with Claire. According to The Young and the Restless spoilers on Tuesday, September 2nd, Kyle Abbott will crash and burn with Claire Newman, while Kane Ashby will continue to play Victor Newman's game for now. Kyle will hope for good news at the Abbott mansion while waiting for Claire's response to his marriage proposal. Unfortunately, Claire will not offer Kyle the one he expected. According to Y&R teasers, Claire's response will catch Kyle off guard. Therefore, all signs point to her rejecting his ring and refusing to marry him. Claire may be outraged, given that she just told Kyle she wanted to take things carefully and proceed one step at a time. Instead, Kyle is rushing to prepare a wedding, which is why his plan is certain to fail. Victor will remind Kane of the leverage he has over him. Victor will force Kane into another corner, while they scheme and plan Jabot's demise. Kane has confessed that he didn't have much of a choice when it came to partnering up. On Tuesday's broadcast, Kane is expected to reach a more formal agreement, while temporarily playing Victor's game. Of course, Kane will be covertly developing his own game. Victor will be unaware that Kane is still preparing dramatic efforts to dominate Genoa City. Meanwhile, Amanda Sinclair will make a bold step for Phyllis Summers' sake. Despite some animosity between Phyllis and Amanda in Nice, Phyllis recently pressed her to meet for drinks and appears anxious to rekindle their friendship. Amanda still considers Phyllis a friend, despite the fact that she occasionally presses her buttons and challenges her limits. That's why Amanda will go out on a limb for Phyllis in Tuesday's Y&R episode, possibly spilling a secret. Kane informed Phyllis that he was canceling his takeover ambitions, and declined to commit when she proposed conducting his dirty job. Amanda may come clean about Kane's true motive now that Phyllis is getting so worked up about it. Kane wants Phyllis and Billy Abbott to spread the news about his failure to achieve his aims in order to divert attention away from himself. That will allow Kane to plot in private and make some unexpected moves later on. Perhaps Amanda will keep Phyllis updated on the truth and reassure her that the plan is still on track. Kyle's ring and Claire's engagement dinner. Kane admits to the real scheme. The Young and the Restless recap for Friday, August 29th, reveals that Kyle Abbott will get a ring and organize an engagement dinner for Claire Newman, while Kane Ashby exposes his true purpose. At Society, Jack Abbott and Diane Jenkins Abbott will try to put a stop to Kyle's proposal plans, but he is determined to pop the question and prove his love for Claire. In fact, Kyle will shortly meet with the Abbott family jeweler to select a ring that he is confident Claire will like. Kyle will be bursting with confidence as he plans to select wedding bands soon. On Friday's episode of Y&R, Claire will open out to Nikki Newman and ponder how she should proceed with Kyle now. Nikki will push Claire to take her time making a decision, but she will also bring her personal history with Victor Newman into the picture. Victor has made his fair share of blunders and decisions that Nikki does not approve of, but she can count on his devotion. Claire will recognize Kyle as a good man and value Nikki's views. Nikki will also give Claire a junior position at Newman Publishing, which is being merged with Chancellor. Claire will be moved if she is able to operate it like Cole Howard did. Claire will eventually run into Kyle at Crimson Lights, and he will resent all of their tension. Kyle will push for an opportunity to reestablish Claire's faith in him, and will want to discuss matters over dinner. Claire will accept the invitation, so Kyle secretly hopes to surprise her with a ring and a marriage proposal. Back at Society, Billy Abbott will tell Jack and Diane on Kane's claims that he is abandoning his takeover plans, but he will not believe Kane and will continue to pursue Chancellor. On Kane's train, Phyllis Summers will not allow Kane pull the rug out from under her. Kane will emphasize that he needs to focus on fixing the damage with his children right now, so Phyllis will argue that the plan is on hold rather than cancelled. Kane, on the other hand, will encourage Phyllis to move on and offer to make some business calls for her. Phyllis will prefer to continue with Kane's GC dominance agenda, and will be willing to bear the heat. After Phyllis agrees to be the vulture, she will demand more information about Kane's plan so that she can proceed. Phyllis will continue to stress that she can handle all of the dirty labor while Kane's hands are clean, but he will be unable to respond right now. When Amanda Sinclair arrives, Phyllis will persuade her to speak some sense into Kane. Amanda will chat with Kane privately, and wonder if his decision to abandon his takeover plans is legitimate. Kane will explain that his new goal is for Billy and Phyllis to spread the word about his decision to back off, giving him a chance to repair his relationship with the twins. While the spotlight is off Kane, he promises to make his move, adding that it will be unexpected. Kyle proposes, Audra tells all, and Nikki seduces. According to spoilers for The Young and the Restless, a preview clip has been posted for the week of September 1, 2025. It shows Kyle Abbott proposing marriage to Claire Grace Newman. Audra Charles tells Nate Hastings everything. Furthermore, Nikki Newman entices Victor Newman with a wonderful time. Continue reading and let's discuss what's coming up on the CBS soap drama. Kyle Abbott proposes.
Let's start with Kyle, who pulls out a ring box in the promo video. During the week of September 1st, Kyle proposes to Claire. Kyle is motivated to do this, but his family has told him that he may be moving too quickly. Furthermore, Jack Abbott and Diane Jenkins Abbott are correct that it is a knee-jerk reaction. Claire Grace Newman's decision. Claire is currently unsure whether she can trust Kyle. The last thing she expects is a marriage proposal. The blonde's eyes widen as Kyle shows her the engagement ring. While that is a great gesture, will Claire accept it yet? Claire assured Nikki that she would not make any abrupt decisions. Claire loves Kyle, but she is also more rational than passionate. Because of her trust difficulties, she may not inform him right away. If Claire says yes, Victor may face a new challenge. While he eventually granted his approval for the relationship, it was only so he wouldn't lose Claire. Marriage will be a whole new ballgame. Audra Charles tells all. According to The Young and the Restless spoilers for the week of September 1st, the preview footage will also show Nate and Audra. Nate begs her to disclose the truth as they sit down together. Audra admits, through tears, that she accepted Victor's quid pro quo. The brunette then reveals that she went after Kyle to achieve what she wanted. At least she's being open about it. However, Nate appears to be heartbroken and disturbed. Nate loves her, but I'm wondering if this is the end of their relationship. Nikki Newman's fiery passion. Nikki is about to make a move on her husband at the Newman Ranch. With a sexy voice and enticing eyes, Nikki proposes to surprise and spoil Victor. Then she adds, "Let me remind Victor of how much I adore him." Kyle Abbott's downfall creates an opportunity for Claire and Holden. According to The Young and the Restless spoilers, Kyle Abbott was unable to let go. He's still bitter about what happened to him and Audra Charles while they worked for Victor Newman at Glissade. However, rather than ignoring Audra, as Claire Newman planned, Kyle went to Kane Ashby's home in France early this summer with the purpose of trapping her. She maintained the same dangerously defiant demeanor, believing a trap could be prepared. Both characters discover that they have upset their claimed loved ones, Claire and Nate Hastings, jeopardizing their relationships. Kyle's life, like Kane's, will stay unstable until he is willing to recognize that his approach was incorrect and then attempt to make amends, assuming that is feasible given the story points. In Genoa City, letting go isn't easy. Kyle had no reason to communicate with Audra earlier this year. But he intended to repay her for the Glissade tragedy. Instead of focusing on Claire and seeing that fighting Audra would bring him down a bad path, he dug in. Audra did the same thing. However, Audra's motivation for repaying Kyle remained hidden in her genuine feelings. Nate realizes she still has deep feelings for Kyle. That puts Nate in second place, behind someone he now believes is likewise untrustworthy. Nate Hastings needs more than just a friend. Audra should feel grateful that Nate tolerated her edgy demeanor. She is not the only woman in Genoa City, Wisconsin, who finds Nate appealing. He committed to Audra during a time when she had just one loyal friend, Sally Spectra. Nate has often demonstrated that he sees Audra's positive qualities and has provided her with the stability she lacked while in her unstable relationship with Tucker McCall. Victoria Newman, along with her daughter Claire, is grieving the loss of Cole Howard. It's easy to imagine Victoria and Nate's friendship and mutual respect blossoming into something more soon. Claire Newman is vulnerable, and Holden Novak is interested. Claire reclaimed the life that her cruel great-aunt, Jordan Howard, had taken from her. She believed she had discovered a first love with Kyle, which would lead to a long-term romance, ultimate marriage, and children. However, Claire's lack of experience with romance led her to be unrealistic. Ironically, her grandfather's suspicions will be partially confirmed. Kyle never intended to betray Claire, but it will appear that way, implying a rebound for Holden Novak. Holden was stunned when he learned about Damian Kane's death via Lily Winters. So he finds himself grieving the loss of a buddy, despite the fact that he thought their friendship had ended by the time Damian died. Kane assigned Holden the duty of establishing rapport with the GC players. But Kane has abandoned his grand scheme, and Holden is developing love for Claire. As a result, they intend to form a future partnership. Kyle Abbott had always considered himself a man who could recover from setbacks, a son of Jack Abbott who grew up in the long shadow of Abbott ambition, yet nothing could prepare him for the crushing sting of rejection that came when Claire Newman looked into his eyes, saw the diamond ring glittering in the candlelight, and gently but firmly pushed his dream back across the table, sending his entire plan crashing and burning before his very soul. He had imagined her smiling through tears. Imagined applause from their families at a surprise engagement dinner, imagined himself finally winning back not only her trust but her heart in a way that would silence Diane's warnings, Jack's doubts, and even Victor Newman's quiet disapproval, but instead, Claire's voice trembled with both affection and fury as she reminded him that she had begged him to slow down, that she had told him she needed time, and that rushing to the altar was the exact kind of reckless, emotional overreaction that proved her greatest fear, that Kyle was acting out of guilt rather than love, desperation rather than devotion, and in that moment the confidence Kyle had worn like armor shattered into brittle shards, leaving him scrambling for words that would not come, while across Genoa City another game of strategy was unfolding, one that involved Kane Ashby reluctantly dancing to Victor Newman's dangerous tune, a man trapped by leverage and circumstance who publicly claimed to abandon his takeover schemes, while privately fueling an entirely new engine of deception, one that used Phyllis Summers as both pawn and shield, allowing her to believe she was maneuvering Chancellor Winters into chaos when in truth Kane was carefully clearing the field for his own return to power, and it was Amanda Sinclair who stood at the crossroads of that deception, feeling torn between loyalty to Phyllis, her friendship strained yet unbroken, and her legal instincts screaming that Kane's calm assurances had darker designs. So in a bold moment Amanda considered revealing Kane's secret agenda to Phyllis, knowing full well that such a confession could ignite a war between the red-haired dynamo and Kane, a war that Victor himself might unwittingly unleash, since even as he believed Kane bent to his will, the quiet storm of Kane's Genoa City domination scheme continued to gather in hidden corners. Meanwhile, Claire, still trembling from Kyle's proposal, sought out Nikki Newman for guidance, her grandmother's wisdom a steadying balm as Nikki admitted that she too had doubted Victor in their younger years, had railed against his manipulations, and yet always found in him an unshakable love that proved the foundation of their family, advice that soothed Claire but also burdened her with the weight of expectation, because Claire could not reconcile Kyle's impulsive push for marriage with the steady hand she yearned for in a partner, and though she cared deeply for Kyle, her rational side refused to be swayed by diamonds or declarations, leaving her vulnerable to Holden Novak, a man quietly circling in her orbit, grieving the loss of Damian Kane yet finding unexpected light in Claire's resilience, and while Holden never set out to fall for her, the cracks in Kyle's armor provided him an opening, one Kane himself might exploit, since Holden had once been positioned as a subtle piece in Kane's greater scheme, though Kane's abandonment of that plan left Holden free to follow his heart, potentially pulling Claire further from Kyle at the very moment Kyle realized that his reckless drive to prove himself had only widened the chasm between them. Across town, Audra Charles faced her own reckoning, finally breaking beneath the weight of Nate Hastings' pointed questions, confessing with tearful eyes that she had struck a bargain with Victor, admitting that her entanglement with Kyle had been part of a quid pro quo rather than the romantic spark she had claimed, a confession that left Nate shattered, his faith in her crumbling, and raised the haunting possibility that Nate, vulnerable and wounded, might find comfort elsewhere, perhaps even in Victoria Newman, who shared his grief over Cole Howard and understood his sense of betrayal all too well, while Nikki herself stoked the flames of passion at the Newman ranch, slipping into Victor's arms with sultry determination, reminding her husband that power and legacy meant little without the fire of love that had bound them for decades. And though Victor indulged her seduction with a rare softness, his mind remained sharp and calculating, believing he had Kane under control, unaware that Kane's true designs remained hidden in the shadows. Back at Crimson Lights, Kyle attempted to salvage the wreckage of his failed proposal, pleading with Claire to see beyond his mistake, insisting that he only wanted to prove his loyalty, but the more he spoke, the more it became clear to both of them that his desperation was not the steady hand she needed but the volatile impulse that threatened to ruin them, and in her silence Kyle saw the truth, that this was not merely a setback but the potential end of their romance, an end that could open the door to Holden, whose quiet patience and earnest grief resonated more deeply with Claire's newfound caution than Kyle's headlong rush into marriage ever could. Thus, in one fateful week in Genoa City, Kyle Abbott's crash and burn proposal not only threatened his relationship, but also unraveled the fragile threads connecting the Abbotts, Newmans, and Ashbys, with Victor unknowingly playing into Kane's long game, Amanda risking everything for friendship, Audra shattering Nate's heart with honesty, Nikki reigniting her bond with Victor, and Claire standing at the crossroads between a fiery past with Kyle and a possibly steadier future with Holden, setting the stage for battles of love, loyalty, and legacy that would ripple far beyond one rejected ring, one seductive glance, or one whispered secret, because in this town, every choice. Kyle's rejection at the hands of Claire Newman was not just a simple no, it was the kind of soul-crushing moment that echoed through the Abbott mansion like a ghostly wail, reverberating in Kyle's chest as though he had lost not only the woman he loved but also the last tether holding him to stability, and as he stood there with the ring box still open, staring at the diamond that now looked less like a promise and more like a cruel reminder of how badly he had miscalculated, he heard Claire's voice, not angry so much as weary, telling him that love wasn't supposed to feel like pressure, that trust couldn't be rebuilt by skipping steps, that marriage was not a magic cure for the cracks in their relationship, and those words cut him deeper than any outright rejection could, because beneath her disappointment was the implication that perhaps she no longer saw him as the partner she needed. Yet Kyle, stubborn and desperate, could not let go, pleading with her to understand that he only wanted to show her his devotion, that his mistake with Audra Charles haunted him every day, that every look in Claire's eyes reminded him of what he stood to lose, but Claire, though her heart ached with affection, refused to compromise her instincts, and in that moment, Kyle realized he had not only lost the battle but was dangerously close to losing the war for her love, because desperation is not attractive, and pressure is not romance, and all the Abbott confidence in the world could not mask the truth that he was spiraling. Meanwhile, Victor Newman was savoring the illusion of control as he pushed Kane Ashby deeper into his pocket, reminding him of debts owed and leverage wielded, positioning Kane as a weapon to unleash against Jabot, but Kane, sly as ever, nodded and agreed while internally drafting the next chapter of his own rise, a game of shadows where Phyllis Summers would be the perfect cover, because she, blinded by her hunger for relevance, believed that Kane's withdrawal from takeover plans was genuine, that he truly wanted to focus on his children and repair his fractured family, and Amanda Sinclair, ever the moral compass, felt the tension between telling Phyllis the truth or letting Kane's charade continue, knowing that her decision could either protect her friend or plunge her into another cycle of betrayal and ruin. But Amanda also understood that Phyllis was never one to sit quietly, and the moment Phyllis learned that Kane's so-called retreat was a smokescreen, she would light the fuse on a war that would make even Victor's schemes look tame, and while Kane wove his deceit and Amanda wrestled with conscience, Audra Charles was facing her own collapse, her glamorous facade crumbling in the dim light of confession as she told Nate Hastings that everything he feared was true, that she had struck a bargain with Victor, that her entanglement with Kyle had not been pure but poisoned by ambition, and Nate, who had given her his loyalty and defended her against critics, felt the foundation of their relationship collapse beneath him, leaving him adrift, betrayed, and vulnerable, and in that vulnerability lay the seeds of something unexpected, because Victoria Newman, grieving Cole Howard and struggling to support her daughter Claire, shared with Nate a kind of wounded resilience, and though neither admitted it yet, their grief could become the bridge to something more intimate, something that might grow quietly in the shadow of collapsed romances and broken trust. But Claire, at the center of so many hearts and schemes, found herself pulled in a direction she hadn't anticipated, because while Kyle's desperation suffocated her, Holden Novak's quiet strength became a balm, his steady presence reminding her that love did not need to be a whirlwind to be real, that sometimes the most powerful connections were those built on patience and shared vulnerability, and Holden, grieving Damian Kane yet finding hope in Claire's courage.